Hello students. So in today's class, Principles of Management class, I'll be taking the topic that is management theories. So in the previous class, Madam was explaining you about the management theories. So from today onwards, I'll be taking your classes. Okay, so both basics of marketing and principles of management, both these subjects I'll be taking. So again I'll start this topic, that is the management theories, from the starting. Once again I will start it. Okay, so I hope that whatever the classes madam was used to take, all are following, and kindly follow these classes also from today onwards, whatever I am teaching you. Okay, so madam might have given you the some kind of details about what are the books you need to purchase and what kind of books you need to purchase and study. So kindly purchase those books and study. So in this management theory topic, there are three approaches. Okay, I will write down on the board. Management theories. Okay, management theories. Okay, how there are three approaches. Okay, first is classical approach, another is neoclassical, third is modern approaches. Okay, so the approach to management ideology. Okay, the approach to management ideology continued developing with the presentation of new thoughts. So the process of development of management thought can be divided into what? Three heads, that is classical approaches, neoclassical approaches and modern approaches. So you can get a question like explain briefly about various management theories. So there are some management theories through which the development process of the management can be done. So every approach can be further subdivided into some branches. Okay, so every approach, there are three approaches, they can be subdivided into three approaches. So the story of the development of management thought can be, it can be divided or it can be shown, okay, in some through sorry, through a diagram. I will show you how the management thought and how the approaches are being classified and how the management thoughts are being divided. So in every management, okay, in every management they adopt some approaches how to do the administration in the organization, and how to do the how to implement all the plans whatever what are there in the organization and how to implement them. So there are these theories. Okay, there are some theories. So now we will be discussing like it is. I will write down on the board. In these classical approaches, management thought will be there. Okay, management thought will be there. So in that thought, it is subdivided into three classical approaches, classical approaches. Okay, classical approaches, non-classical approaches. Modern approaches. Then it is the classical approach. Okay, the classical approach is been again subdivided into three categories. Okay, that is through three approaches. That is scientific management approach, administrative management approach, bureaucratic management approach. What is that? Scientific. Scientific management approach, administrative management approach, and bureaucratic management approach. Okay, administrative, bureaucratic, scientific. And the second one, the non-classical approaches are been again subdivided into human relations approach and behavior scientific approach. Human relations approach, behavioral scientific approach. And the other modern approaches. Okay, modern approaches is quantitative approach, system approach, and contingency approach. Quantitative approach, system approach, and contingency approach. Okay, so these are what? These are the management thought. Okay, management thoughts and the management theory. It has been divided into classical approach, non-classical approach, and modern approaches. And this classical approaches has been divided into scientific, administrative, bureaucratic. Then non-classical approach is divided into human relations, behavioral scientific approach. Then modern approaches are been divided as quantitative approach and system approach and contingency approach. So these are all what? These are all the theories and plans what are the management want to implement in an organization. They need to do all these plannings. All these approaches are being adopted to manage to do the management in the organization. So first one, the classical approach. Okay, the classical approach to management started around the year 1900. So the principles developed under this approach are accepted even today. Okay, so under this approach, it is felt that man is a inactive source of production and it is important to control him. So It also believes that the employee is motivated by the economic incentives. So in these classical approaches, there are three: scientific, management and administrative, bureaucratic. They are called as the pillars of the classical approach. These are the pillars of the classical approach. And the neoclassical approach. So the neoclassical approach to management development around the year of 1930. So the basis of this approach is the classical approach. So under this approach, what happens? The classical approach has been presented with some modifications. So the main difference between the classical and neoclassical approach regarding the treatment of the human resources, under the classical approach, okay, the human resources is ignored and much importance is given to work and physical resources. So on the other hand, neoclassical approach understands the importance of human resource. So under the neoclassical approach, individual and group relationships have been given due importance. So this approach has two basic pillars. What are those basic pillars? Human relations approach and behavioral scientific approaches. And the third one is modern approaches. So in this modern approach to management was developed under the year 1950. Okay. So that approach is an improvement upon both the classical and neoclassical approach to management. So this approach has what? Three basic pillars: quantitative approach, system approach and contingency approach. You just need to remember these side points. Okay. So the other is, what is the classical theory of management? Okay. What is the classical theory of management? What is the classical theory of management? So the evolution, okay, the evolution of scientific management, okay, the evolution of scientific management, how it came. So the forerunner of scientific management theory are, who is the forerunner of the scientific management theory are the Robert Owen and Charles Babbage and Frederick Winslow Taylor. They are the forerunners of scientific management theory. Robert Owen was the manager of different cotton textiles mills between 1800 and 1828. So he was the first person to pay attention to labor welfare. So he suggested a change in the attitude of industrialists towards workers. So he worked upon his maximum possible extent for the amalgamation of, for the what? For the betterment of working conditions of the workers, and thereby he tried to win over their confidences. He tried to win the confidences to make the conditions of the workers good and to change the working conditions of the workers to improve their livelihood and to improve the working conditions, and to he started that men should not be treated as a secondary and inferior to machines. So he said that the humans should not be treated secondary as machines, but humans should be treated as a first. And the other person, Charles Babbage, what he said? Besides this Robert Owen, there were some scientists who thought of making improvements in the management by observing the scientific techniques. So prominent among them was Charles Babbage, an leading British mathematician at Cambridge University from 1828 to 1839. He studied the working conditions of what? Factories in England and France, and observed that most of the factory class used to work on the basis of estimates and immigration. So there are some contribution of Babbage. He has done some contributions. So Babbage stressed that good machines and efficient workers do not inevitably ensure success in businesses. So good management that directs and controls machines and workers in the most crucial element is the successful business. And he advocated, he advocated like Adam Smith the principles of division of labor. He also suggested that use of time study techniques. So he, the Charles Babbage and Robert Owen, all these person, what they are doing, they are contributing to they are helping the industrial workers, and they are helping, they are introducing new techniques, new theories, new suggestions to improve for the betterment for the working conditions of the labor in the company. So he considered all aspects of contemporary management thinking, mutuality of interest between employees and employer, production control, and like paying of incentive pay, quality control, salary, wage, administration, profit sharing, operations, research, preventive maintenance, and research and development. So all this, what they are doing, they are contributing, they are contributing to the what, to the organizations. They have been a person who are giving the, who are been giving suggestions, who are been giving suggestions to the, who are giving suggestions to the human for the better working conditions of the workers in the organization. And there are some, you can get a question like explain the salient features of F.W. Taylor's scientific management. There was a person, Frederick Wilson Taylor. There was a person called Frederick Winslow Taylor. Frederick Winslow Taylor, known popularly as the father of scientific management and a classicist in management theory, he was the first person who insisted on the introduction of scientific methods in the management. So he made for the first time a systematic study of management, and he evolved an orderly set of principles to replace the trial and error methods that given in vogue. And the F.W. Frederick Wilson Taylor made a humble beginning by joining as an apprentice in a small machine making shop in Philadelphia in the 1870s. So later he became a mechanist in 1878. So at a Maldives Steel Workers in Philadelphia. Afterwards he rose to the position of a mechanist foreman. So the person F.W. Taylor, he observed that a number of movements of the workers at the workplace were unnecessarily, and consequently they were taking more time to do the job than necessary. So hence what he did, he proposed time and motion study. So what he did, people, he observed that the workers are been working continuously, constantly in the company. So he introduced so many plans, and there are some salient features of this Frederick Winslow Taylor's scientific management. So what are the salient features, what he said about this scientific management? There are some features. They are like, first is separation of planning and doing and functional foremanship, then job analysis, standardization, scientific selection and training of workers, then financial incentives. Salient features of F.W. Taylor's scientific management. Salient features of Frederick Winslow Tyler. Okay. So what are the salient features? First he said separation of planning and doing. Second is functional foremanship. And third is job analysis. Fourth is standardization. Fifth is scientific selection and training of workers. Scientific selection and training of workers. Okay. So Frederick Winslow. Okay. Frederick Winslow, he gave some what? He gave some scientific salient features. Okay. So first is separation of planning and doing. He said that he emphasized the separation of planning aspect for actual doing of the work. So he said that planning should be left to the supervisor and the worker should emphasize only on the operational work. So he said first point is separation of planning and doing. What he said? He said that Taylor, he emphasized that the separation of planning aspect from actual doing of the work. He said that the planning should be left to the supervisor and the operational work should be emphasized only on the operational work. And the second one is functional foremanship. So Taylor, what he said, Taylor evolved the concept of functional foremanship based on what? Based on specialization of functions. Okay, based on the specialization of functions which could take planning work adequately besides keeping supervision on workers. So in this, what happens in this system, 8 persons are evolved to direct the activities of workers. So out of this, 4 persons are concerned with planning. Okay, 4 persons are concerned with planning. Then first is route clerk, instruction card clerk, time and cost clerk, disciplinarian, and the remaining 4 persons are concerned with doing aspects of the work. Speed boss will be there, inspector, maintenance, foreman and gang boss. So like this, they have, he said that the operational work, they all should be divided. So in this system, 8 persons are evolved to direct the activities of the workers. They should direct the activities of the workers. So out of these, 4 persons are concerned with planning. Okay, out of these, 4 persons are what? They are being concerned with the planning. So route clerk, instruction card clerk, time and cost clerk, disciplinarian, and the remaining 4 persons are concerned with doing aspect of the work. Speed boss, inspector, maintenance foreman and gang boss. So all of them give directions to workers on different aspects of work. So the third is job analysis. Okay, job analysis. Job analysis, what job analysis is undertaken to find out the one best way of doing the things. So the best way of doing a job is one which requires the least movements, consequently less time and cost. So job analysis is undertaken to find out the one best way of doing the things. So the best way of doing a job is one which requires the least movement, consequently less time and cost. Fourth is standardization. Then standardization should be maintained with respect of instruments and tools, periods of work and amount of work, and working conditions and cost of production. So this standardization, he said, the Taylor, that standardization should be maintained with respect of instruments and tools, periods of work and amount of work, and working conditions, cost of production, etc. And this fifth is scientific selection. Okay, fifth is scientific selection and training of the workers. Training of the workers. So Taylor has suggested that workers should be selected on scientific basis, taking into account their education, work experience, aptitude, physical strength, and apart from selection, proper emphasis should be given on the training of workers, which makes them more efficient and effective. Which makes them more what? Which makes them more efficient and effective. So Taylor has suggested that workers should be selected on scientific basis, taking into account their education, work experience, aptitude, physical strength. So apart from selection, proper emphasis should be given on the training of workers, which make them more efficient and effective. So proper scientific selection and training should be given to the workers. Then only the effective work can be done in the organization. And the sixth is financial incentives. Financial incentives. Seventh is economy. Eighth is mental revolution. Okay, mental revolution. So the financial incentives. So this Frederick Winslow Taylor, he said that there should be the financial incentives. So according to Taylor, he said salary and wages should be based on individual performance and not on the position which a person holds. So he said that according to Taylor, wages should be based on the individual performance and not on the position which a person holds. So according to Taylor, salary should be based on individual performance and not on the position which a person holds. So basically he said the salary should be given according to how much work he is doing and how much what is the performance he is doing. So the economy, okay, the seventh is economy. So Taylor suggested adequate consideration to be given to economy and profit. So Taylor suggested adequate consideration to be given to economy and profit. And the eighth one is mental revolution. So mutual cooperation between management and worker can be achieved through mental change from conflict to cooperation in both parties. So mutual cooperation between management and workers can be achieved through mental change from conflict to cooperation in both parties, okay, in both the parties. So these are the eight salient features of what of the F.W. Taylor's scientific management. First is what? Separation of planning and doing. Second is functional foremanship. Third is job analysis. Fifth is standardization. Fourth is standardization. Fifth is scientific selection and training of workers. Sixth is financial incentives. Seventh is economy. Eighth is mental revolution. So there are some principles of scientific management. Okay, there are some principles. Okay, for this scientific management there are some principles. Okay, so we will discuss these principles of scientific management. There are 5 principles. First is principle of use of science for the rule of thumb, and principles of scientific selection and training of workers. Then principles of cooperation between labor and management, and principle of maximum output. And fifth is principles of division of responsibility. Okay. What is it? It is principles of scientific management. Principles of scientific management. Okay, principles of scientific management. So for the scientific management approach propounded by F.W. Taylor is based upon the following 5 principles. Okay, so the scientific management approach propounded by F.W. Taylor is based upon the some principles. Okay, so what is the principle? First is principles of use of science for the rule of thumb. Principles of principle of use of science for the rule of thumb. Second is principle of scientific selection and training of workers. Principle of scientific selection and training of workers. And the third one is principle of cooperation between labor and management. Between labor and management. Okay, so the principles of the principles of scientific management. Okay, the principles of scientific management. In this, the principle of use of science for the rule of thumb, and principle of scientific selection and training of workers, and principles of cooperation between labor and management. So these are the principles of, there are some two that I will after explanation I will write it. So let us discuss about the what is the first principle, that is principle of use of science for the rule of thumb. So according to this principle, what is happening, all the activities being performed in an organization should be analyzed in detail with the aim of developing a technique of accomplishing the maximum possible work in a efficient manner and at the minimum possible cost. So according to these principles, what all are the activities are being performed in an organization, it should be analyzed in detail with the aim of what? With the aim of developing a technique of accomplishing the maximum possible work in an efficient manner and at the minimum possible cost. So this principle says that we should not get stuck in a set and continue with the old techniques of doing work. So rather we should be constantly experimenting to develop new techniques which make the work much simpler. So this principle says that we should not get stuck in a set and continue with the old techniques of doing work. So rather we should be constantly experimenting to develop new techniques which make the work much easier and simpler. So what is this in this principle? It does says that the activity should be performed in an organization should be analyzed in detail only with the aim of developing a technique of accomplishing the maximum possible work in a efficient manner. It should be done in a efficient manner. And the second is principles of scientific selection and training of workers. So according to this principle, the selection and training of workers should be done in a scientific manner. Okay, so this principle, the selection and training of workers should be done in a scientific manner of the various activities being performed in an organization. So selection of workers is the most important because even one wrong appointment can spoil the whole atmosphere in the organization. So scientific appointment means appointing only those people to do a particular work who possess the necessary capabilities to do it. So only scientific selection of workers is not adequate in itself. So the worker should also be imparted the necessary training for time to time. So proper training of the workers increases their what? Efficiency. And what happens? The benefit both the workers as well as the organizations will be there. So what is happening? A good selection and training of workers should be given. Proper selection and proper training has to be given to the workers so that they can do the work more efficiently. Okay, so we will continue our class tomorrow. Okay, so hope if you have any doubts you can text in the group itself.